Hi, welcome back. Okay, I'm going to read an article here from The Water Wizard. The Conduction of Earth's Blood, page 61. The double spiral flow pipe. And there's a great image of the double spiral flow pipe. So, I've got some books in front of me here as well. These are the Design in Nature series by J. Bell Pettigrew, and some electroform pieces. Okay. The conduction of Earth's blood. Before we move on to a description of the correct construction of a water supply pipe, a further example should be given which should make the principle of correct water conduction obvious. Okay, I just read a whole bunch without recording. If the blood vessels of the snail are examined, two differently colored systems of blood vessels are evident. The blood flowing in the outer system of the vessel is lighter, and in the inner system darker. The composition of the blood in the outer system is distinguished by a greater oxygen content and is substantially different from that of the inner system, which exhibits a higher content of carbones. Investigations further demonstrate that suspended matter is concentrated in the middle of the capillary cross-section, whereas dissolved matter congregates more towards the periphery. In addition, if the blood flow is deemed to be moving along a straight line, then the velocity of the forward motion is less at the periphery than at the center. In this regard, however, note that the difference in speed is only illusionary. The forward motion of the inner particles of fluid only appears to be faster than the outer blood particles. This is because the latter must describe a path roughly corresponding to double helical motion, a spiral motion within a spiral, whereas the inner blood particle appears to perform a simple spiral motion. The second component of the double spiral movement described by the blood corpuscles of the inner system cannot be observed because the line of the second spiral is an energy path imperceptible to the eye. This has a much higher meaning, for we are here concerned with the process of qualitative psychic enhancement, the raising of the psyche to a higher energetic and immaterial level. This not only influences the character of the blood, but in the course of further development also affects the character of the psyche, the character or psyche of the respective organism. In contrast to customary methods of investigation, the conviction is slowly gaining ground in various fields of research that the object under examination should be decomposed into its constituent parts to enable the study of its very smallest aspects. The frequently mentioned material transformations in water are outwardly identifiable through the pulsation of water. Hydraulics is only aware that this decreases with increasing velocity and is intensified with increased roughness of the channel wall surfaces. So with electroforming, the wax can be textured such that the channel wall surfaces can be rougher and intensify the material transformations in water. Water is therefore invested with a certain inner vitality and a decisive role as it rises up the capillaries in concert with the supply of necessary formative substances. On many occasions, I have stated that the rising of sap in trees cannot be explained by physical factors alone, such as the effects of external air pressure. Its explanation is to be found in ongoing metabolic processes and constant pulsation in every cell of the tree. It is therefore a result of the vital activity of the capillary tree cell. Professor Kurt Bergel of Berlin came to the similar conclusions in relation to the activity of the heart and the blood in animal life. He rejects the current view that the motor, the heart, is supposed to pump blood to all parts of the body, On the contrary, this work is performed by millions of highly active capillaries permeating the body. This fluid-raising capillary force is only effective up to a certain height, and external aid is therefore necessary. This Burgel demonstrated with a small experiment. He stood the base of a bundle of thin-haired tubes in water and lightly and regularly tapped the top, causing the water to flow continuously out the ends of the capillaries. In his view, health and disease are primarily dependent on the faultless or disturbed activity of the capillaries. Professor Burgel furnished definite proof of this in his investigations of the bird's egg. After being incubated for only a short period of time, a small red spot appeared on an egg, which on closer inspection proved to be a drop of blood. If the egg is incubated further, then the network of arteries can already be distinguished on the skin of the yolk sac. Rhythmical pulsations can still be detected just before it cools off. So this is part 2, the double spiral flow pipe. You can see there. Both in cross-section and longitudinal section, the double spiral flow pipe satisfies all the criteria necessary for water supply, if it is to convey healthy water to the place of use. By means of a system of veins made of precious metals arranged on the surface of the pipe walls, the water masses are conducted along the double spiral flow pipe in such a way that the movement of individual filaments of water at the periphery takes the form of a secondary helical motion along a primary helical path. Okay, so here you can see this is secondary helical motion, and then in the center is the primary helical motion. Okay. Through this arrangement, both centrifugal and centripetal forces evolve simultaneously in the cross-section of the pipe, which conveys bodies heavier than water down the center. Bodies lighter than water are impelled towards the periphery. Water masses conducted in this fashion are slightly warmed through the interplay of mechanical forces of friction on the vein surfaces, leading to the separation of oxygen in the inner region of the pipe and its subsequent concentration at the periphery. At the same time as the oxygen is ejected, all the bacteria migrate towards the periphery as well, since their living conditions in the more central part of the cross-section have now become unsuitable. In company with the bacteria, all the water-polluting particles are also dispatched towards the periphery of the pipe. Thus, the water is easily and simultaneously purged of all suspended matter. Once bacteria have transferred to the peripheral zone in search of the required oxygen, and after a certain period of time in water completely cut out from outside influences, they are overwhelmed by the localized concentration of oxygen. In this way, precisely those pathogenic bacteria susceptible to an excess of oxygen are advantageously eliminated, whereas non-pathogenic bacteria, which are not harmful to human health, but in many cases are actually beneficial, are to a certain extent retained. At the same time as the content of absorbed oxygen is separated from the carbones contained in all water, the inner core of the water surges ahead in a simple spiral movement, vortical movement along the longitudinal axis. Because the surface tension of the water becomes physically reduced as a result of the above-mentioned separation of oxygen from particles of carbon. The physical reduction in surface tension results in a mechanical acceleration, leading to the self-purification and energetic charging of the centrally accelerating water masses. On the other hand, this charging of energy gives rise to further processes related to the overall equilibrium between the heavy, centrally accelerating bodies and the energy-rich water. The physical reduction in surface tension results in a mechanical acceleration, leading to the self-purification and energetic charging of the centrally accelerating water masses. On the other hand, this charging of energy gives rise to further processes related to the overall equilibrium between the heavy, centrally accelerating bodies and the energy-rich water. With the ensuing simultaneous cooling, solid particles are separated and again directed towards the periphery. With the ensuing simultaneous cooling, solid particles are separated and are again directed towards the periphery. They are combined with oxygen and are reunited with the centrally accelerating water in the form of additional energies. Those particles of matter not drawn into the center will be pressed into the surface of the pipe walls by the prevailing mechanical pressure, there to combine with the raw materials from which the timber was originally formed. Thus they seal the pores of the wood, which in this way becomes more durable than iron. Once again, we are here concerned with the natural processes whose active principle is operative in the formation of all capillaries. The capillaries not only construct themselves, but also protect themselves against harmful influences. As a result of acceleration, the entire body of water peculiar to the double spiral flow pipe, greater quantities of water can be conveyed than in an ordinary smooth-walled pipe, due to the efficacy of the oxygen. Extensive self-purification and self-sterilization of the water occurs, which constantly increases in quality through the uninterrupted buildup of energy as it moves along its path. The reason for this is as follows. As they accelerate, centrally conducted water masses are simultaneously cooled, with the result that the gases evolving from the carbones become concentrated in the flow axis, where the lowest temperature resides. This concentration decreases towards the periphery. The oxygen, on the other hand, is concentrated around the periphery of the pipe, reaching its most aggressive state at the interface with the warmer pipe wall, giving rise to mutual interactions between the two basic substances from the periphery inwards. This subsequently leads to the aforementioned interactions which qualitatively enhance both water and wood. In the course of time, the relative spatial distribution of the more central flow of water and the interactions at the surface of the pipe wall arrive at a certain state of equilibrium. The process then ceases. The water is now mature, and both wood and water have become almost immune to harmful outside influences. Whereas oxygen is located at the peripheral zones of the pipe, the free particles of carbonic acid congregate in the boundary zone of the inner core of water, as a result of the water temperature prevailing there. The carbones contained in the water in bound form necessarily accumulate in the central axis, which is predominantly saturated with carbones. By arranging the inbuilt, specially shaped veins in a particular way, aggressive particles of oxygen in the boundary layer of the outer edge of the inner core of water are brought into continuous and direct contact with the most aggressive carbon dioxide, resulting in a continuous generation of energies. I'm going to read that part again. By arranging the inbuilt, specially shaped veins in a particular way, aggressive particles of oxygen on the boundary layer of the outer edge of the inner core of water are brought into continuous and direct contact with the most aggressive carbon dioxide, resulting in a continuous generation of energies. These are drawn further towards the centrally accelerating water masses due to the decrease in temperature towards the central axis of the pipe. Accordingly, two types of circulation are created in the cross-section of the pipe: the mechanical circulation of the pipe and the counter-circulation of those energies that evolve when aggressive particles of oxygen encounter free carbon dioxide. This circulation of energy manifests itself in the form of a continuous electrodynamic process. In this instance, it does not take place at the walls of the pipe, but at the boundary zone of the water's inner core, resulting in the qualitative uplifting of its physical, material, energetic, and immaterial attributes, but not in the destruction of the pipe walls. These double spiral flow pipes also convey matter heavier than water down the middle of the pipe and at the same time ennoble and refine it, so that oils of inferior quality, for example, will be improved during flow. After smelting, iron ores transported in this fashion yield higher grade iron, because in the process of being transported, the oxygen in the ore is consumed in the formation of new carbon compounds, reduction processes, which then contribute towards the materially higher composition of carbones, iron. All right, hope you enjoyed. Hey, Papa. Are you camera shy? Peppa, are you camera shy?